I'm gonna say something. I don't think India took it far enough with Pakistan. I don't. I think they could. I think it could have been another week of them just consistently hitting different military places, different, like strategic outposts, different facilities. I don't think India went far enough. Yaps. It's in the name. So about a day ago, India's Navy did something unbelievable. Unbelievable, they said. I've seen a lot of crazy things, but this right here is unbelievable. And they did it against China and Pakistan. What did they do? Let us find out.
Indigenous aircraft carrier INS Vikrant to the Arabian Sea.
According to defense sources, the Navy is steadily bolstering its presence across the region. The Indian Navy declared, fueling the maritime might, no mission too distant, no sea too vast.
Indian Navy remains deployed at sea in a credible deterrent posture to respond decisively to any inimical action by Pakistan or Pakistan-based terrorists.
In the early morning hours of May 7th, 2025, not long after India launched its cross-border strikes, something strange happened in Karachi.
That's a map on Call of Duty.
No ships left the port, no Pakistani F-16s scrambled, no retaliation orders issued. Because while the world was watching the BrahMos missiles fly its first mission, the Indian Navy was already in position, silent, mobile, and parked menacingly close, just outside Karachi port. Pakistani vessels sat locked in their own harbor, surrounded by sonar shadows and radar ghosts, knowing full well that if they moved, they would be done. It wasn't a warning. It was the first use of the doctrine of cold start. And it worked. That morning, Pakistan's fleet found itself bottled up inside the choke point that is Karachi port, or trapped in coastal harbors. Commercial shipping stalled too. Karachi port, the nation's economic and naval lifeline, sat under a quiet watch too.
Hold on.
Karachi port, the nation's economic
Based on its punitive offensive operations, operation short of nuclear attack, India's new doctrine against Pakistan flirts with Armageddon. Pakistan Army Chief General here with the Secretary of Defense Robert M. Gates of the U.S. Pakistani Strategic Dialogue Plenary Session, Washington, D.C., points out the threat posed by India's aggressive doctrine could escalate alarmingly fast.
And naval lifeline sat under a quiet, watchful siege. India hadn't fired a single missile at the Pakistanis. They didn't need to. The message was loud enough without the explosions. Unlike their opponents, the Indian military has been steadfast in their respect for non-combatant life.
Pakistan forces said had been warned that another violation, whether tonight or later, would be responded to fiercely. Indian Navy was ready to strike Karachi, kept Pakistan ships confirmed in harbor.
We tested and refined tactics and procedures at sea during multiple weapons firings in the Arabian Sea within 96 hours of terrorist attack. The aim was...
Do I think India tried to not hit as many civilians as possible? Yes. Is it a guarantee that you could do that? Absolutely not. That's why war is so scary, right? Like, you could just be living your normal day, and then all of a sudden, you look at places in Iraq and Gaza, there's nothing left. That could be you in these really hot war zones. Like, it's truly scary. Over here in America, it's truly blessed that the only real attack that we ever had on our soil was 9/11, and it was not nearly the same, to the same even caliber as something that's going on with fighting a neighbor.
Was to revalidate our crew, armaments, equipment, and platform readiness to deliver various ordnance on selected targets precisely, said Vice Admiral A.N. Pramod. The warning was simple. We're here, we're ready, and if you retaliate, you will lose your Navy before breakfast. This was a textbook execution of India's cold start doctrine at sea. India didn't wait to mobilize or engage in weeks of dangerous back-and-forth escalations and warnings. By the time Indian missiles were flying in Operation Sindoor, the Navy had already closed the noose. The Navy's carrier battle groups, surface forces, submarines, and aviation assets were deployed at sea with full combat readiness. Surveillance drones and satellite feeds tracked every movement inside Pakistani waters, while Boeing P-8I patrol aircraft looped across the Arabian Sea, their radar nets sweeping for signs of life.
Whenever I wonder about submarines, man. I've had a recent fascination with like this underwater submarine tech, and like apparently we have military bases. And I'm sure China, India, I'm sure it's not uncommon to have like underwater bases of like full buildings submerged underwater where you can do maintenance on submarines and different things like that. Like, fascinating, no?
The Arabian Sea had turned into a chessboard. and the Indian masters were playing a hyper-modern opening. The Pakistani foe didn't know it, but India had already had every square on the board covered. Karachi never stood a chance. But the operation didn't start on May 7th. To get to the root of it, we need to travel back in time to the aftermath of the 2001 Indian parliament attack, in which Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists killed 9 people. Now, this video is definitely not advertiser-friendly according to the YouTube algorithm, and this is why we need your help. YouTube has a habit of restricting videos that talk about war, but this is the reality of the world we live in.
Yeah.
So, if you can do us a big favor and hit that like and subscribe button down below, it helps out the video tremendously.
Honestly, too, you know what's crazy is definitely go subscribe to this guy. He's great. Does a very good job. Here, I'll do it with you guys. Ready? 3, 2, 1. We did it. Good job, y'all. When it comes to videos like this, it's crazy because it's going to be easier to find these videos from somebody like me on like my channel where somebody's reacting to this kind of content than the actual content itself. So YouTube does a really good job of suppressing shit like this whenever it comes to war and conflict, just because they don't want to be pushing that kind of content, which I understand. But at the end of the day, we subscribe to this kind of channel because it's news, and for me, this is how I kind of get my let's say Indian news, or just kind of like what's going on in India, China, just the East, right?
We appreciate you. During the 2001 crisis, India mobilized every branch of its military, but it took 2 weeks to prepare. By the time the army was ready to strike, international pressure had mounted, and the opportunity had evaporated. In the years that followed, Indian defense planners began developing a new doctrine built on speed and forces that could be activated at a moment's notice. It became known as Cold Start. While the army developed integrated battle groups to strike across the border, the Indian Navy quietly reshaped its own doctrine to mirror that readiness at sea. The focus shifted to carrier group mobility, submarine stealth, and better real-time intelligence. By the time Narendra Modi's government began accelerating military mobilization, the Navy was already postured for rapid response, with BrahMos-equipped destroyers, stealth frigates, submarines, and the mighty Vikrant, all of them under the GSAT-7 Rukmini satellite, and all of them pieces of a maritime cold start. It was the culmination of years of preparation to strike quickly, contain escalation, and control the Indian Ocean battlespace. So, on April 22nd, 2025, when Pakistani terrorists opened fire on Hindu pilgrims in Pahalgam, Kashmir, killing over 30 and wounding dozens more, the response wasn't delayed. According to survivors, the attackers separated the group, letting the Muslims go and executing the Hindus. Some killers got away over the border, like usual. But this
is that day was so tragic.
time, India began preparing immediately, deliberately. Fighter jets went on alert, while missiles were readied. A naval task force shoved off into the Arabian Sea, and Operation Sindoor was underway. And by the early morning hours of May 7th, 36 heavily armed ships and the Indian Navy were parked outside of Karachi port. Pinned in the harbors and shallow waters just off the coast, the Pakistani fleet could do nothing but watch, intensely wait. Neither side fired a shot during the 3-day siege, but that didn't stop the misinformation train. As the standoff continued, claims that the port had been attacked continuously popped up on Muslim social media. Bengali news channel ABP Ananda even aired a clip of an airliner crash in Philadelphia, claiming that the airport had been hit. But in reality, the Indians had forced the Pakistani Navy into a corner, and what could have become a battle stayed tense but safe until the May 10th ceasefire. But the propaganda didn't just cut one way. Indian media outlets like India Today, Aaj Tak, TV9 Bharatvash, ABP, and Z News declared that the Indian Navy had attacked the Karachi port too. However, those reports were contradicted by live reporting from Pakistani news and social media sources shortly after they were made. Also on May 11th, Indian Navy Vice Admiral A.N. Pramod said that Indian Navy warships would remain deployed in the northern Arabian Sea in a decisive and deterrent posture, with full readiness and capacity to strike select targets at sea and on land, including Karachi, at a time of our choosing. But he never mentioned that the Navy had carried out an attack. The reporting around the entire event on both sides? Ridiculous. What would anyone have to gain by fabricating a military strike on a port? I guess sympathy on one side and ratings on the other side, but I mean, that's the best I can come up with.
Hold on.
On both sides? Ridiculous. What would anyone have to gain by fabricating a military strike on a port? I guess.
Okay, what could someone gain from fabricating a military strike on a port? I'm gonna look at this with a U.S. lens because we've done this where we've made it seem like an incident was something bigger or something that wasn't meant with us. I'm looking at like Cuba, some of the stuff in Guantanamo Bay, like stuff like that. That's what I'm thinking of. What do you get? You get optics. You get optics and the sway of the public wanting you to win. And when you have the community behind you, the people that you're supposed to be governed supporting you, it's a lot easier to do the things you need to do instead of, fighting constant resistance.
Guess sympathy on one side and ratings on the other side, but I mean, that's the best I can come up with. And still, the entire thing is absurd. The Indian military showed incredible restraint, and it was a textbook example of how the Cold Start Doctrine is designed to work. That's the real story here. So let's get back to it. The fleet that India surrounded Karachi with was a collection of 36 high-tech warships optimized for multi-domain dominance. And at its core is the INS Vikrant, the crown jewel of an ultra-modern navy. It's India's first homegrown aircraft carrier, fully designed and built in the country under the Admanit Bharat initiative.
I would say that one looked really unique because that doesn't look like our warships or our destroyers or something like that. That's a really kind of a cool looking ship. I like the little lip, like runway jump for it for the the fighter jets that have to take speed and then fly off. Like
Jewel of
cool.
an ultra-modern navy. It's India's first homegrown aircraft carrier, fully designed and built in the country under the Admanit Bharat initiative. President Modi's plan to produce all Indian defense equipment domestically rather than be a customer state like they'd always been in the past. It displaces around 45,000 tons, operates
Holy
a ski
shit.
jump Stobar system, and carries up to 30 aircraft, including MiG-29K fighter jets, Kamov Ka-31 AEW helicopters, and Indian-made HAL Dhruv utility choppers. The carrier runs on 4 gas turbines, which can push it to over 28 knots. INS Vikrant is defended by AK-630 close-in weapon systems, capable of unleashing 30mm rounds at high speed to intercept incoming missiles and aircraft. It also carries 64 Israeli Barak-1 surface-to-air missiles for short-range aerial threats and, like most naval ships, can also deploy chaff and flare countermeasures to confuse radar and heat-seeking weapons. Onboard sensors include 3D air surveillance radars and electronic warfare suites. Its real power, though, even beyond the fighter jets that launch from the deck, is that its combat systems are fully integrated with the Indian Navy's network-centric operations for the Indian Navy: Command, Control, Communications, and Intelligence, or NC3I. A battle network that
Military
integrates
tech is so
information
cool.
from all the Indian Navy ships and planes, along with the GSAT-7 Rukmani, a geostationary military satellite launched in 2013, which keeps constant, unblinking watch on the entire Indian Ocean region. This makes the Vikrant the central node, launching strike missiles, coordinating fleet defense, and managing anti-submarine operations all at once. In a situation like Operation Sindoor, the carrier provided both offensive force and insurance to the rest of the fleet that the operation ran smoothly. Along with the INS Vikrant, India also deployed the INS Vikramaditra, its older, Russian-built Kiev-class aircraft carrier. The presence of both carriers illustrates the sheer scale of the operation and the heart of the Cold Start Doctrine, to hit the enemy hard with every asset available. Sailing alongside both carriers and plunged natively into the NC3I network, the Kolkata class marked a turning point in Indian naval design. Launched in 2006 as the first domestically built destroyer class, it combined heavy firepower with the capability for networked command systems, anticipating integration with future platforms like the Rukmani satellite and the Vikrant in the not-too-distant future. It is capable of launching BrahMos missiles, defending the fleet with advanced Barak-8 surface-to-air missiles, a joint venture between Israel and India, and engaging surface targets with a rapid-firing OTO Melara 76mm naval gun. Below the waterline, the Kolkata also has 533mm torpedo tubes and RBU 6000 rocket launchers for anti-sub warfare. Its radar and sonar are capable of tracking threats across air, surface, and subsurface domains. With over 7,400 tons of displacement, it was the first step in India's push towards a domestically produced and high-tech style of Navy warfare, built to network as well as to strike. Its successor, the Visakhapatnam class, was launched in 2015 and refined the same formula but with enhanced stealth, better automation, and more indigenous components.
Okay, it's nice to go over what, like, the catalog of what India's military has, but what did they do against China, Pakistan? I know what they did against Karachi in Pakistan, but so far nothing against
armed
China.
very similar to the Kolkata class. And then there was the INS Rajput. Probably sailing its final combat mission, the Rajput wasn't Indian-built. It was Cold War steel, born in a Soviet-Ukrainian shipyard and sold to India in 1980. 45 years later, it entered the Arabian Sea one last time, carrying BrahMos missiles where Styx once sat. India's frontline frigates include 2 key classes, the Shivalik class and the Talwar class. The Shivalik class, launched between 2004 and 2007, was India's first domestic stealth warship line, designed to produce radar and infrared signatures while still packing a devastating punch. These frigates are armed with either Barak 1 or 8 surface-to-air missiles, BrahMos or Club anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, and 76mm naval guns, making them versatile across surface, air, and underwater threats. The Talwar class launched in 2 batches
All right,
between 2000
hypothetically speaking, while he's going over the whole thing, I want to ask you guys, if you had to choose, would you rather be a warrior on the water or a warrior in the sky? I still think I'd rather be a warrior in the sky than on the water.
And modifications, strong integration with the rest of India's naval fleet. Both classes remain essential to fleet operations and are fully compatible with India's networked warfare systems. The future of India's frigate fleet lies with the Nilgiri class, a new generation of stealth warships built under Project 17A. With natively integrated Barak 8 air defense and BrahMos missiles, these ships are designed from the ground up with top-notch Indian weapons, NC-3I connectivity, and stealth in mind. Under the Arabian Sea, Scorpin submarines, known in India as the Kalvari class, patrolled to keep the net around the Pakistani fleet tight. Built in partnership with France and launched between 2017 and 2023, these diesel-electric attack subs are designated for stealth, with low...
I would not want to ride in one of these things. Oh my god, this would scare the hell out of me. Oh hell no.
Acoustic signatures and a hull designed to disappear into coastal waters while blending in with local traffic. Their torpedo tubes are dual use and fire domestically produced Varanastra heavyweight torpedoes, Exocet SM-39 anti-ship missiles, and they could even launch mines if desired. One thing they can't do, though, is launch missiles like the BrahMos. The submarine-launched BrahMos is simply too large for the Kalvari torpedo tube and requires a vertical launch system built into the hull, something the Kalvari doesn't have. That role will likely fall to India's future nuclear submarines, which are being developed now with the Project 75 Alpha program, although those boats probably won't be commissioned until the mid-2030s.
Damn.
Of them, Boeing P-81 Neptune aircraft ran
We're literally
continuous
going through the
patrols.
whole catalog.
These long-range sub-hunters use magnetic anomaly detection, sonobuoys,
like
and synthetic aperture
swords and
radar to
knives they
sweep
have on
the sea
deck?
for movement. Like every other piece of equipment in the Indian Navy, they are also coordinated with satellites and drones as part of the NC-3I system to monitor Karachi's naval infrastructure, tracking the enemy, and watching them from above. Flying off the deck of the INS Vikrant, the MiG-29K brings sharp edges and old-school aggression to India's modern fleet. Originally designed in the Cold War, the platform was rebuilt for carrier life, reinforced for hard landings, and given wings that fold. It carries R-77 missiles, the Russian equivalent to the United States AIM-120 AMRAAM and the R-73, for closer engagements, along with precision-guided munitions and anti-ship missiles. And I'll be honest, this is my favorite part, because the MiG-29 is one of the most iconic planes ever put in the sky.
Yeah.
There's a sort of menacing elegance to its shape, especially around the cockpit, that's always excited me. Like a kid with a Lamborghini poster or Farrah Fawcett on his wall. It's beautiful. But what's really beautiful is how the operation went off.
For me, I get Top Gun vibes from it, and I think like pilots, like Indian pilots, American pilots, doesn't matter. Some of the most badass people on the planet, man. Like truly, maybe a little borderline psychotic and narcissistic on what they think they're actually capable of, because you got to think you're a top dog being able to get on one of these things and just fly around as confidently as they do, and then fight another person in the air with it. Like, you got to think this person's 9 to 5. What they do to take care of themselves, pay the bills, and their family is literally get in this thing and patrol the skies, and if need to, take them up down
without a single civilian casualty. That's the beauty of the cold start doctrine. Strike fast like a Lamborghini, hit hard like an MiG-29, and then leave smiling like Farrah Fawcett before your enemy can decide how to react. Not just a missile strike for the sake of it, but to send the message that India doesn't need to escalate to win, because they know they shouldn't. This message wasn't just for Pakistan. India didn't launch Operation Sindoor in secret. They launched it for the entire world to see, and with the full force of a rapidly improving Indian military capability. Carrier groups trained...
That's a valid point, too, because India is quickly becoming like a very... It's a superpower, not with just population, but now with military, technology, India's development over the next 20 years. You guys know how I feel about it. I think India is going to be a fantastic place to travel to see. So I think this is India stepping up and saying, hey, look, we leveled up. We recently leveled up, and now we're in the end game. We have in-game gear. We're ready for raids. We're ready to do some partnership and some trade between the major guilds. Like, what we got here.
And deployed in days. Drones in the sky, satellites overhead, Indian missiles screaming across the border, and no apologies, because with the precision of the strikes, none were needed. When terrorists murder civilians, they don't require an apology. That's what puts the restraint of the Indian military in such stark contrast to their opponents. But at the same time, India is tired of being pushed around by terrorists, and the world watched a firm, final, but ultimately measured response. With missiles flying into terrorist camps and Pakistani's largest port in Karachi completely cut off.
I'm gonna say something. I don't think India took it far enough with Pakistan. I don't. I think it could have been another week of them just consistently hitting different military places, different, like strategic outposts, different facilities. I don't think India went far enough. And with the water treatment, they reverted their not attack, but like They were like, okay, you're gonna break agreements. We're gonna break the water treatment agreement. And I think they went back on that. That should still be now. You don't get any water until you learn how to operate like a normal human being and kick these savages out of your place or put them in a big ass box so no one has to worry about them anymore. You don't get no water.
What did the Pakistani response consist of? At first, just more of the same. Drones, denials, and on May 8th, Pakistani's defense minister, Khwaja Asif, stated that the threat of nuclear war with India is clear and present. What was clear and present was the truth. Modi had called their bluff. The Indian Navy had surrounded Karachi. The Indian Air Force had flown deep into enemy airspace. Indian missiles had hit their targets, and the other side hadn't even made it off the runway. Then, on May 9th, 2025, the Pakistani army launched a series of retaliatory missile and drone strikes targeting Indian air bases in Punjab and Jammu, marking its official response to Operation Sindoor. The attack included both conventional missiles and swarms of over 600 drones, aiming to overwhelm Indian defenses. But Indian air defense is capable and layered. India's top-of-the-line Russian-supplied S-400 Triumph air defense system worked perfectly, successfully intercepting a nuclear-capable Shaheen missile, while domestic systems like the Akash and the Israeli Spider system took down hundreds of inbound threats. Indian-Israeli Barak 8 missiles onboard naval vessels also played a role in securing key coastal and airspace corridors.
I wonder how much
Nearly
that
all
costs.
the Pakistani
Like
projectiles
one,
and drones
like,
were intercepted
flare
before
volleys of
impact,
missiles?
with minimal damage reported on the
Like,
ground,
that has to be
announcing
expensive.
the maturity and level of sophistication of India's multi-tiered air defense grid and the failure of Pakistan's attempt to regain initiative. It is the happiest day of my life seeing my baby work so accurately and beautifully in shooting down incoming enemy aerial targets. An elated Dr. Prahlada Ramarao, developer of the Akash, said following the attack. He said he had tears in his eyes when he saw it worked beyond expectations, engaging incoming targets effectively. The following day, on May 10th,
That's a weird project. That's a weird hobby to have. Can we agree on that?
2025, less than 24 hours after Pakistan's missile and drone assault, India launched a second wave of precision strikes. But now the targets weren't terrorist camps. They were military assets deep inside Pakistani territory. Using a combination of air and ship-launched BrahMos missiles, along with other precision weapons,
they could've
India
done a
struck
few more days
airfields,
of
radar
this.
sites, and weapon depots. The operation demonstrated not just reach, but self-control, again resulting in only military destruction with no civilian casualties.
Once more, the no civilian casualties, probably true, but you don't, like, even if you're an Indian, you're a proud patriot, like, if like this was America and I saw no casualties, I would doubt its validity, because I don't trust what the numbers necessarily the mainstream news gives me. I kind of use it as like a gauge, like, okay, there was little to no civilian casualties, so that's the best possible outcome. Like,
And again,
that's
highlighting the difference
the
in the
reality
approach
of
to
the
combat
situation.
and the value of human life between the two
There's
sides.
no way that they're
Unlike
always
India,
100%
Pakistan was
truthful.
unable to defend itself and suffered damage at key sites. Even the Sheikh Zayed airport was hit, leading to condemnation from Pakistan and its allies. But the airport houses and supports military equipment and operations. So, under international law, it is a legitimate target.
That's fair, but guess who also works at airports? Normal people. Guess who goes to airports? Normal people. Even if they use it for military things, you can have wives, brothers, families, or it's just a normal airport where business people are going back and forth.
Underscoring Pakistan's lack of commitment to protecting its own civilian infrastructure. For decades, India has lived under the shadow of Pakistani nuclear rhetoric. Every provocation from across the border came with the threat, spoken or unspoken, that if they retaliate, they risk escalation to the point of no return. That's been Pakistan's play for years.
Like, and what kind of neighbor is that? Hey, if you do anything funny, we're coming back. We're ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? Like, you can't sit down at the table and have a good, meaningful conversation and a fair faith and fair faith discussions.
To hide
Doesn't even have to be
terroristic
an
and
argument,
internationally unacceptable behavior behind the threat of nuclear war. The Cold Start was designed to beat that game by being quick to act and precise. This wasn't like 2001, when the United States rallied half the world and declared war on jihadism and then fought for 20 years. This was the execution of smart doctrine, limited military action giving the enemy a quick, bloody nose and then leaving the field. And it worked perfectly. And that puts India in a very different place than it has been. The same country that once absorbed blows and then entered into Islamist back-and-forth mind games now strikes fast and hard, leaving no question what consequences are when attacked. The same country that once bought its weapons now builds them. No longer beholden to international backlash, India is free to hunt terrorism down precisely and swiftly. If you're watching this from the outside, whether you're in Beijing, Tehran, or Washington, Operation Sindoor should have caught your attention.
It did.
Because in addition to displaying overwhelming military force and world-leading technology, the Indian military demonstrated a new pattern. That the new India isn't going to be bullied by bad neighbors and then be told not to react.
And this is exactly what I was saying, that India is now at the end game. They are a guild master, and they are ready to run dungeons. They're ready to run raids. And if anything, if this was solo leveling, their guild, they're like, all right, this is Operation Sindor. This is our first S-class gate. We got to do this. This is our first red gate, and we're going to do it ourselves. We're not going to get any alliance from anybody else. We're going to do it with what the resources we got. And it was a success. And now the rest of the world is watching. And if I had to put my money on it, which I currently do, because I have Indian stock, I think India and America are about to have a beautiful friendship, and I think the development of India over the next 20 years is going to be pretty sick to watch. So, with that said, let me know what you guys think. What's more, the question of the video is, would you rather be a warrior of the water or the warrior in the sky? Personally, Top Gun, put me in a jet, I'm flying that thing. Over water, ain't no way. Ain't no way, Jose. But with that said, I challenge you guys, make somebody laugh today. If you're seeing this is the day that's recorded, it's a Friday. Hope you have a great Friday. Hope you have a great weekend. Make somebody laugh. Be a light in someone's life. It's casted in shadows. Be a light that just radiates them, and it all starts with just one person. If you put one smile on somebody's life, that little ripple effect, you don't even know the capabilities. It's beautiful. So, make somebody laugh. Give them a good old chuckle. Give them a hug. If you see a friend, let them know you love them. You're grateful for their presence and all the times that you have with each other. Because there's not enough of that in the world. All right. So with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. A-E-Yaps. It's in the name.